Welcome back to I'm Still Here. I'm Larry.
And I'm Heather. In 1998, at the age of 26, I was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. It changed everything for us, but I'm still here. And we're still here. This is episode number
50.
50. Seems to be a theme in my life this year. 50-50. So, I thought maybe we would talk about longevity today and what that looks like a little bit. And also just kind of the whole, I don't know, all of everything that surrounds that in terms of, I think when you're first diagnosed, it feels like it's just a pipe dream, right? To be able to maybe live with this diagnosis for a long time, right? Mm-hmm. And, yeah, I mean, initially everything that we did was just to add kind of days to my life, I think. Yeah. We weren't really thinking about years.
Well, yeah. I think you were. I mean, I think the doctors were. I think not the years like this.
Right.
But to go from, get your affairs in order to 3 or 4 years, I think was definitely... I don't think they would have recommended the chemo, the radiation, the double stem cell transplant, the absolutely beating up of your body if it weren't for the possibility of years.
Yeah,
outside chance.
I agree with that. I think there was also a little bit of long-term side effects. We probably don't really have to worry about those too much.
Yeah, that's
or
true.
Or we'll cross that bridge if
hopefully we have long-term side effects.
Exactly.
Yeah, no kidding. Right.
So that's, I think, a big difference. It just, the mindset changes over time, right? So early on, side effects are more kind of immediate in the moment. Things like that are impacting your life all the time,
and changing fast.
Changing fast, exactly. Being bald, losing your hair. Everybody notices that. Having mouth sores.
Yeah.
Having the taste of food and things be different. There's a lot of things that it feels like, oh my gosh, what is it now? What's happening right now, immediately, and even just I was thinking about things like chemo brain. People talk about not being able to remember things as well or be in the moment. I didn't feel like I experienced a lot of that, but I don't know, I might have. Mm-hmm. Neuropathy, just having the sensation in your hands and feet and whatever. There's a lot of different things for short-term side effects, but we kind of got through all of those. I don't want to say sailed through them because some of them were absolutely horrible. Mm-hmm. And some of them did change things forever. I mean, I remember certain things that I ate during chemo that I'm like, no, I'll never have that again. Or whatever. Just I remember the taste of milk, which I loved. I used to love drinking milk, and then we stopped because of it being, having hormones in it or whatever. But I remember tasting it after one of my stem cells, and it had such a metallic taste to it that it was pretty much yeah, no, I don't ever need to have that again. I don't think, So
I don't know when the last time I drank milk was.
I know.
Probably 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I have no idea.
It was just some things that we just were yeah, it's different. But yeah, I think it's this is kind of the problem that everybody with metastatic disease wants to have, right? Is dealing with the side effects from longevity.
Until you have them.
Well,
because we're always in the moment.
Yeah.
No matter what, you're always in the moment, and that is your reality. Mm-hmm. And you think, oh, I would love to have that problem. Until it's that time and you have that problem, and that problem sucks.
Yeah.
And it is life-changing, some of these problems. And yes, I get it is nice to have that, but they aren't fun. I mean, side effects are side effects.
Right. Yeah, no, that's true. I think it's interesting, even when I think about, like, we've talked a little bit about, I was on disability initially, and now I don't even know if I would truly qualify for disability, even though I still have this diagnosis, you know. And
Really?
yeah, I don't know. Do you think I don't know?
I have no idea. You handled all that, so
Yeah,
I don't
but
know.
you know, but I don't have the outward day to day kind of things in the same way that I have. You know, again, the fun things that linger. So I just thought we might talk a little bit about some of those. The first one that I thought of was that I definitely have some damage to my heart. So that impacts me in terms of just like, I don't know, heart rate tends to be high. Goes high very quickly. Doesn't take. I get my exercise minutes every day on my Apple Watch because
Can you walk down the hall?
well, stairs will definitely do it. In my job right now, I do a lot of stairs, so I'm like, I do think actually maybe I'm getting a tiny bit more fit, but it is one of those things that it's like my heart rate is crazy, you know. And I've been taking a beta blocker for I don't know how many years now or whatever.
Quite a while.
Yeah, but it's, you know, and that's probably from the Herceptin, which I did for about, I don't know, I was just talking to somebody about this. I think about 4 or 5 years, I think. And then I just was like, no, I don't want to do that anymore.
So how did that discussion or decision happen?
Well,
was it because of the side effects, or
it was kind of because of the side effects, but it was also because we had added Herceptin when we thought that there was progression. And that was the one time that we were able to, it was a bone kind of biopsy that we did, and it turned out that it really wasn't cancerous. So kind of had added this extra layer of protection that then as I, you know, kept taking it, and like to go and have it done or whatever, it didn't make me feel bad in the moment. But then as my heart started feeling the effects of it, I just was like ready to be done. My oncologist, we agreed on that, and it's been fine. I mean, that was the right move for me. You know, a lot of that goes into it. I probably am not really strongly HER2 positive, even though that's what the testing comes out. It's not the biggest driver in terms of what my cancer looked like. So, fun.
along with that, the other big long-term side effect is
Osteonecrosis of the jaw.
oh, that's right.
I mean, there's a couple of them. There's osteonecrosis of the jaw has been kind of something that it just started. I can look back and go, oh, here are the things that happened. I've learned a lot of fancy words about your mouth structure, but that is from being on a biphosphonate. And I not everybody has osteonecrosis of the jaw, but it is a side effect that happens. And I was on Zometa for a really long time.
What's a biphosphonate?
It's something that works on the structure of your bones to help it to like build bone. I don't, you know, to make your big bones stronger, but it also makes your little bones not as strong.
So compact bone versus spongy bone.
Okay, there you go.
I've never asked that question. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I should have asked that a long time ago.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was on Zometa initially with my very initial treatment, and we kept going with it. We did start spacing it out more and more, and by the time I was done with it, I was only taking it like one time a year. But the half-life of it is forever, years and years and years. The research was not being done on it. I still don't know how much is being done, but I know my mom had found one study that said that you increase your chances of dealing with ONJ after 4 to 5 years on a biphosphonate.
And you were on it how long? Did you say?
I was on it for like 13 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So, what had happened was that I noticed that like the structure of my mouth, the inside, actually, I call it the tori, like the inside part of your mouth. It was growing, so it was making the upper part of my roof of my mouth smaller. And actually, I would get things. Do you remember that? Like stuck up there, like I was like trail mix. It comes to mind, like any kind of little seed or something like that would get stuck up there. And when I first went to a oral surgeon about it, they said, like, kind of, the guy blew me off completely, and he just was like, it's no big deal, and blah blah blah. And then I ended up with exposed bone at the top of my jaw, which osteonecrosis of the jaw generally happens in like the mandible, like the bottom jaw. But for me, I feel like I always do things a little bit differently. So mine started out with being like exposed bone at the top of my mouth, and it ended up.
So the top of your mouth is also the bottom of your nasal cavity. It's a shared bone.
Yeah.
Called the maxilla, and because of this deterioration of the bone, it allowed there to not be any healthy or structured bone in between there. So it was skin.
Yeah.
And then from the skin, because of the infection, it even opened up from there, and there was nothing. We're not talking about a huge hole, but there was communication, or things could go from the mouth to the nasal cavity, from the nasal cavity to the mouth, theoretically, and that's when you get infection.
Yeah. I'm just laughing because, like, there's been many times when I couldn't use a straw.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have.
You'd have to. Yeah.
Like.
Gotta have that suction.
Yeah. So, I've done multiple surgeries because of this osteonecrosis of the jaw, and it's compromised my sinuses, and it's been really a big deal. The one thing I found with osteonecrosis of the jaw is that it moves very quickly. Like when something starts to happen, when the infection really goes crazy, whatever, it goes very fast. So I go from, I sort of see something, to, oh my gosh, it's all exposed. Or, in
a week.
Yeah,
exactly. So that's what she's talking about, fast. I mean.
Yeah. And so I ended up having multiple surgeries. The roof of my mouth kind of got opened. We debrided it a couple of times, and then that piece came completely out. I liken it to like being bald, in that when it came out, it didn't hurt at all. Just like when your hair comes out being bald, I was like, what? It just was ready to come out. But then it ended up kind of over on the right side, and I have a couple of teeth removed because of that back there.
And this might be an ongoing thing for the rest of your life because of that medicine, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's been quiet for a little while, a couple of years, year and a half, 2 years, I think now. But yeah, those are the things that it made it really fun. We've done a lot of traveling because of osteonecrosis of the jaw. We started at the University of Michigan, and now I now see a doctor at Mayo out in Minnesota. So,
and these are crazy extreme surgeries if you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're working on the bottom of your nasal cavity, and there's no access to that. They have to create an access to that.
You want to talk about that?
No, it's an extreme surgery that
the first one
that they don't do around the world. No. There's only a few people who do this. It's crazy.
Yeah, the first surgery that I had involved both my oral surgeon and an ENT, because what was happening was that my sinuses were completely infected and closed also. So,
yep.
Yeah, not the most fun, but also something to know about, I guess, something to pay attention to. And then the other thing that came along with the biphosphonates was just the fractures, right? Like all of these, I have like literally broken the bones in my feet so many times. And even I have broken a few of the bones in my hands. That might have been only one, actually. But it's one of those things that you just have to keep dealing with what comes, right? And I don't know.
And these are things, yes, 20 years ago you'd said, oh, okay.
Yeah, no problem.
For sure, some spongy bone fractures, okay, and I'll deal with those. And yeah, I can't go run a marathon anymore because of my heart.
Yeah.
Or I get out of breath or
Yeah.
exercising is
Yeah.
harder for me because of my elevated heart rate, so I
Yeah.
can't go as hard.
Yeah.
I think you'd definitely traded that off.
Yeah, I
20
had
years
to.
ago, I mean,
yeah,
no.
for sure. Yeah.
I'm saying
I would have.
if knowing about
Oh, yeah.
these are what is going to be your long-term side effects.
Yep.
Comparatively, obviously, it would have been a no-brainer.
For sure. Absolutely.
But those things suck.
They do.
And those have, changed your body and changed how you do things. And they are life-changing things. But in the end, it's a trade-off between being here and not.
It is.
That's the truth.
Right. The other one that I would add to that is just like the loss of sensation at different points of my body also. We've talked a little bit about my breasts because I've had them, I initially did the double mastectomy. And then I waited a few years and had reconstruction. And I don't know what I was expecting. I think, but literally is sort of just for looks, and that's not even ideal. But
for clothes to fit a certain way.
It's for clothes
That's what it is.
to fit, yeah. So it's those things too of just thinking about like this is my body and I'm super happy that it's still performing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's definitely been some sacrifices along the way for it, So yeah. I don't know.
No more downhill skiing for you.
No, it's funny. We were just with
Things
family
like
this weekend,
yeah.
and then we were talking about skiing, and I was like, I'll see you in the lodge. I'll hang out in the lodge, which is, again, it's one of those things.
It's not worth the risk.
No, I can't afford to do that. So skiing was a no-go kind of from the start, both water skiing and downhill.
Yeah.
But things that are different, too, like over time, is just that, people... I think my closer friends and family will still say, how's it going? And they mean, like, how's your health? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But for the most part, people don't know about the cancer, which is a blessing. And also, I don't know, I feel like you walk around with a perspective that a lot of people who haven't had health challenges don't have. And so sometimes...
Yeah, it's kind of weird here because... It is who defines you. It is what defines you in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing at certain points you don't want it to define you. And in certain other areas you do want it. You want people to know about it. Is that weird?
It's right? One of those things that I just feel like, especially in, what I do in my daily life, it is so defining for me that it does impact the way I feel about many situations or the way that I approach different situations. So be it, again, working in healthcare, working around people who are sick, working around or maybe who are aging and dealing with challenges. This perspective over 20 years, when they look at me, they assume you have no idea what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. and I go, you have no idea who I am. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those type of things. And I think it also makes me have a different perspective sometimes than even like my coworkers, in that I understand what it feels like to be a patient. And I say that in quotes. I want the people who I'm working with to be able to have a say in what's happening, to choose how they age, to do things that are, I just think as a therapist, it's very much like, come on, let's get back at it, and I understand as a patient that it's okay to not want to.
What about in your non-work life?
Yeah. I think for that, it's been the things over the years that have been more challenging have been the things that people take for granted. Mm-hmm. The kind of cockiness that comes with your 20s and 30s of, I'm just going to, this is how things are going to go. This is, or even the realization maybe that because we had such a life-altering diagnosis early on that it just really makes it hard for me sometimes when people are so, I don't know, confident that everything's just going to be the way it's going to be. Does that make sense?
Sure. Kinda. That's not really what I was talking about.
Okay.
You made the statement, people don't know.
Yeah.
Unless whatever. That's the part I was talking about.
Okay.
How does that, we're not talking about in your work world. What about, in that, do you feel like you do bring it up or tell people or not? Or?
I do sometimes. I bring it up sometimes. Okay. It depends on what the situation is. Because again, it has impacted. It impacts how I think about things. It impacts how I, just move through life. So yeah, and especially if I'm in a situation where I feel like it can be helpful to somebody, I'll bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be lying if I said that I didn't bring it up sometimes to try to tone people down. Don't, right. Give me your blah, blah, blah. I got a story for you. But, it is always there, right? It's just not like driving anymore. It's like, I think we've said that before, it's kind of the passenger, right? But it's always there.
It's truly the longevity part of this. Yeah. It's I don't know when that happens, but it is the longevity.
Yeah. And I think it's also it's the perspective that we've been able to gain about all of the challenges, and that, we still keep getting through them. Even though.
Yeah, it's different. If a new teacher came in, I would say, hey, it's going to get better.
Yeah.
Listen, and here's what you need to, if you do these things here, 5, 10, 15, 25 years down the road, you're going to look back and you can't say that.
No.
To somebody dealing in the midst of being diagnosed and being treated, and during treatment, you can, but it's weird. I would never say that to somebody. If I were you, I'm putting myself in your shoes. I would never say that to somebody and say, "Oh, it's going to get better, and here's what and look at these things." But you kind of did that to yourself. When you were going through treatment, you kind of shifted gears from the woe is me to, here we go. And you did talk about the future, and even if you were trying to talk yourself into it, I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
No, but you did, and you were like, "No, I'm gonna," and you were pretty cocky about it in a way that you can do, which is different than how you would talk to somebody in that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you have to hold space for both things. I don't think I generally tell people it's gonna get better, but I do say this is a phase, or this is that too will end, right? Sure. That's what's so hard, is realizing, but then there's another one coming. Just, there's something else coming. But hopefully that next thing that's coming won't be as sucky as the one you're currently in.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And that's what I think is, that I'm pretty good at, is, okay, this is less terrible than what was previously happening, so therefore I'm going to be able to feel joyful, or
or forget about cancer,
or forget about it, or whatever, live the way I want to live, because this feels really manageable to me compared to what's previously going on. But this isn't all consuming. But there are things that, at my previous job, where I would have sick days, and there'd be so many people that would have a million sick days, and I'm like, that's never going to happen for me. I don't have that, quote, luxury of having sick days, because I have a laundry list of surgeries, you know, so it's like save them up, use them, save them up, use them, you know, kind of thing. So I think when it's I can relate to people about things like that, that's a good thing. But I think there's also opportunities to say, okay, I know this is bad, but like we can move forward, or we can do it differently. I don't know. I mean, and maybe it's not even do it differently, and maybe it's, but this is what I've learned over time. Right?
Right.
So.
Yeah.
Oh, 50.
50.
50 years, 50 episodes.
It's been fun.
Yeah. We appreciate everybody who's walking this road with us. And yeah.
Hopefully everybody gets something a little bit out of it.
Yeah. I agree.
Luckily you have longevity.
Longevity.
Yeah.
And I'm still here.
You are. All right. Later.